What happens when a prince refuses to 02 play by the rules of late-night 04 television? What unfolds when years of 06 royal protocol clash head-in with 09 American comedy's sharpest wit? Tonight, we're diving into the explosive 15 confrontation that shocked audiences 100 worldwide as Prince Harry faced off 019 against Stephen Colbert in what started as 22 a routine interview, but quickly 24 spiraled into television chaos. Before 27 we get into this incredible story, make 29 sure to hit that subscribe button and 31 drop a comment below telling me what you 34 think really happened behind the scenes. The Late Show studio buzz with its 39 usual pre-show energy. Stephen Colbert 42 adjusted his tie, reviewing his notes 451 time as the Producers 147 made their final preparations. 50 Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, sat in 52 the green room. His security details 55 positioned strategically nearby. 58 wasn't his first American's television 100 appearance. But something felt different was 03 tonight. The tension in the air was 105 palpable even before the cameras started 107 rolling. As the show's iconic theme 110 music filled the Ed Sullivan Theater, 112 Colbert delivered his opening monologue in 14 with his trademark wit and political 116 commentary. The audience laughed and 119 applauded at all the right moments, completely unaware of the storm that was 124 about to unfold. When Colbert 126 introduced his guest, the crowd erupted 129 in enthusiastic cheers. Prince Harry 131 walked onto the stage with his usual 133 composed demeanor, waving to the 136 audience before taking his seat next to 138 the host's desk. The interview began 140 cordially enough. Colbert, known for his 144 ability to blend humor with serious 145 journalism, started with lighter 140 questions about Harry's life in 149 California, his various charitable 151 endeavors, and his recent projects. The 154 Prince responded with practiced ease. 157 offering carefully measured answers that 159 revealed just enough tough personal insight to 201 keep the audience engaged while 203 maintaining his composure. For the first 10 minutes everything proceeded exactly 208 as both men had likely expected. But 2011 then Colbert shifted gears as he often 2040 does, diving into more pointed 2016 territory. He brought up the ongoing 2018 discussions about the monarchy's role in 2021 modern society, the conversations about 224 institutional reform and the various 226 controversies that had surrounded the 2028 royal family in recent years. Harry's tweet responses became noticeably more 2032 guarded, his body language shifting 2035 almost imperceptibly as he straightened 2037 in his chair. The turning point came 2039 when Colbert, with his characteristic 2042 directness, asked about the financial 2044 aspects of Harry's departure from royal 2047 duties. The host had clearly done his 2049 homework, referencing specific details 52 about security costs, residence 254 arrangements, and the various business 256 ventures that had emerged since Harry 2058 and Meghan's move to America. The 301 questions weren't necessarily hostile, 373, but they were probing in a way that 305 seemed to catch the prince off guard. 307 Harry's media training kicked in and he 310 attempted to deflect with humor, making 312 a light comment about American curiosity, 315 regarding royal finances. The audience 318 chuckled, but Colbert wasn't deterred. 301 he pressed forward, asking about the 323 apparent contradictions between seeking 305 privacy while simultaneously engaging in 327 high-profile media projects. The Studio 3030 audience began to sense the shift in 3032 atmosphere, the laughter becoming more 335 scattered and uncertain. That's when 337 Harry made what would later be described 3039 as a crucial mistake. Instead of 3042 maintaining his diplomatic composure, he 344 allowed a flash of irritation to show 347 through. He questioned whether Colbert 349 truly understood the complexities of his 352 situation, suggesting that the host was 354 oversimplifying matters that were far 356 more nuanced than appeared from the 358 outside. 400 The comment wasn't aggressive, but at 403 carried an undertone that experienced 405 television viewers immediately 407 recognized as dangerous territory. 409 Colbert, a veteran of political comedy 12 who had sparred with presidents and 4014 prime ministers, wasn't about to let the 4016 moment pass. He leaned forward slightly, 40 his expression shifting for he'll host Force 22 to skilled interrogator. He asked Harry 425 to explain exactly what the audience was 428 missing, what complexities they couldn't 4031 understand from their limited 432 perspective. The question was delivered 434 with Colbert's signature blend of 4036 curiosity and challenge, the kind of 439 approach would have made him one of 441 America's most respected late-night 443 hosts. The prince found himself in an 445 impossible position. He couldn't 448 elaborate without potentially revealing 4050 more than he intended, but he also 452 couldn't retreat without appearing 453 evasive. His handlers in the wings were 450 likely feeling the first stirrings of 459 concern as they watched their carefully 501 planned media appearance begin to veer 5 3 off script. Harry chose to push forward 506, explaining that the American media 5'er despite its thoroughness, often missed 510 the deeper cultural and institutional 5A12 factors that influenced royal 5E15 decision-making. Colbert pounced on this 5I sense in opening with the precision of a seasoned 5I19 journalist. He asked specific questions 5I22 about these cultural factors, about the 5E25 institutional pressures Harry 5R7 referenced, and about how these elements 5 and 29 had shaped the prince's own choices. 531 each question was perfectly reasonable 533 on its surface, but collectively they 536 were building towards something more 538 confrontational. The audience was now 540 completely silent, sensing that 542 were witnessing something unexpected and 5E45 potentially historic. Harry's responses 548 became increasingly defensive. He began 551 speaking fast, his carefully 553 maintained public persona showing cracks 555 as he Colbert's rapid fires and 58 fire questioning while simultaneously 600 protecting information he clearly didn't 6003 want to share publicly. The Prince 605 started making references to 607 conversations and decisions that the 609 audience couldn't fully understand, creating an atmosphere of confusion and 614 growing tension in the studio. Colbert 617 recognized the signs immediately. Years 60-20 of interviewing politicians 60-22 celebrities, and world leaders had 624 taught him to read the subtle cues that 60-26 indicated when a guest was becoming 60-28 uncomfortable. But instead of easing 60-30 back, he made a calculated decision to 60-33 lean into the moment. This was after 60-36 all what great television was made of. 638 and his audience deserved authenticity 60-40 over politeness. The host next 643 question cut straight to the heart of 645 the matter. He asked Harry directly 648 about the apparent contradiction between 60-50 criticizing media intrusion while 60-52 simultaneously courting that same media 60-55 attention through various projects and 657 appearances. Colbert's tone remained 700 conversational, but there was an 702 unmistakable edge to his words that made 704 it clear he expected a real answer, not 707 other diplomatic 78 deflection. Harry's face flushed 711 slightly, a reaction that the camera 713 captured in unforgiving detail. For a 716 moment he seemed to weigh his options 718 glancing briefly toward the wings where 7I19 his team was stationed. When he turned 722 back to Colbert, something fundamental 74 had shifted in his demeanor. The 726 practiced royal composure was cracking, 7I29 replaced by something more raw and 7I32 human, but also potentially more 734 volatile. The prince's response was 737 and immediate. He questioned 739 whether Colbert had ever experienced the 741 kind of relentless scrutiny that came 743 with being born into the public eye. Whether the host could truly understand 748, what it meant to have every personal 749 decision dissected and criticized by 752 millions of strangers. His voice carried 755 a bite that hadn't been there moments 757 before, and the studio audience shifted 7 and 59 uncomfortably in their seats. Colbert, 82 however, was in his element. This kind 85 of heated exchange was precisely what he 87 excelled at, and he responded with a 80-10 mixture of empathy and challenge that 80-12 demonstrated why he had become one of 80-14 America's most respected interviewers. 80-17 acknowledged that he couldn't 80-18 personally understand that level of 820 scrutiny, but pointed out that many 822 public figures faced similar challenges 80-25 without the adages of royal 80-26 privilege and inherited wealth. The 80-30 comment about privilege struck a nerve 80-32 that Harry had clearly been trying to 83-4 protect. His response was immediate and 83-7 passionate, explaining that privilege 80-40 came with costs that outsiders never 80-42 considered, that every advantage carried 8 corresponding responsibilities and 80 Air Force and restrictions that were impossible to 849 quantify. He spoke about the weight of 80-51 expectations, the impossibility of 80-54 living up to idealized public images 80-50 and the personal toll of constant 80-59 judgment. But Colbert wasn't finished. He 902 pressed further, asking whether those 904 costs justified some of the choices 907 Harry had made, whether the difficulties 909 he described gave him the right to 911 criticize institutions while 914 simultaneously benefiting from them. The 916 question was delivered with surgical 918 precision, targeting exactly the kind of 9I21 contradiction that made for compelling 9023 television, but also created genuine 9025 discomfort for the person being 9027 questioned. Harry's response revealed 9929 just how deeply the question had 9Z32 affected him. He leaned forward in his nice rising slightly as he 9I37 explained that criticism and 938 participation weren't mutually 9041 exclusive, that caring about a 943 institution meant wanting it to improve 945 rather than simply accepting its flaws. 9Fry's words came faster now with less of 9051, the careful consideration that had 952 marked his earlier responses. The host 9s and 55 sensed that he had found the pressure 957 point that would define this interview. He asked Harry to elaborate on what 102 specific improvements he thought were 104 necessary, what changes he believed 106 would address the problems he had 108 identified. It was a fair question on 111 the surface, but it required Harry to 113 either make specific criticisms of his 115 family and their institution, or to 119 retreat into generalities that would 120 make his previous comments seem hollow. 23 Harry chose a middle path that satisfied 125 no one. He spoke about modernization and 129 adaptation, about the need for 10-30 institutions to 133 times, but he avoided naming specific 135 problems or proposing concrete 138 solutions. His answer felt evasive even to viewers who were sympathetic to his 143 position, and Colbert's expression made 146 it clear that he found the response 147 inadequate. The host's follow-up 150 question was devastating in its 151 simplicity. He asked Harry whether he 154 believed his own departure from royal 156 duties represented the kind of 158 modernization he was describing, or 1100 whether it was simply a personal choice, 1102 that he was now trying to frame in 1104 broader terms. The question forced Harry 1106 to either claim that his individual 1108 decisions represented institutional 1110 reform, or to admit that his criticisms 1113 were primarily personal rather than 1160 principled. Harry's response was the 1118 moment when the interview truly began to 1121 spiral out of control. Instead of 1123 answering directly, he questioned 1105 whether Colbert was genuinely interested, 1127 in understanding his perspective, or 1130 simply looking sound bites that 1132 would generate controversy. The 1134 accusation hung in the air between them, 1136 transforming what had been a tense but 1138 professional exchange into something 1141 more personal and 1142 confrontational. Colbert's reply was 1144 swift and pointed. He reminded Harry 1147 that he had chosen to appear on the 1149 show, that no one had forced him to 1152 accept the invitation or to make the 1154 statements he had made. The host 1156 suggested that if Harry wasn't prepared 1158 to defend his positions or answer direct 1200 questions about them, perhaps he 1202 shouldn't have agreed to discuss them in 1204 a public forum. The exchange had now 1207 moved far beyond the realm of typical 1209 late-night television. Both men were 1212 speaking with intensity and 1213 directness that made the studio audience a 1216 feel like unwitting witnesses to a 1218 private argument. Harry's team in the 2020 wings was undoubtedly calculated the 2022 potential damage, while Colbert's 1204 producers were probably weighing the 2026 entertainment value against the risk of 2028 completely alienating their guest. Harry's next statement would later be 12I33 replayed countless times across social 2035 media and news programs. He told Colbert 2030 that the host questions revealed 2040 exactly the kind of superficial 1242 understanding that made meaningful 2044 dialogue about these issues impossible. 1247 he suggested that American media 49, despite its reputation for hard-hitting 1251 journalism, often missed the deeper 2054 complexities of situations it claimed to 1256 analyze. 2057 the comment was a direct challenge to 2059 Colbert's professional competence. The host's response reflected his year's 1304 of experience dealing with difficult 1307 guests. He calmly asked Harry to explain 1310 what specific complexities he believed 1312 were being overlooked, what crucial 13 information the audience needed to 1316 properly understand the situation. Being 1319 discussed, Harry found himself trapped 1321 by his own words. Colbert's calm request 1324 for specifics had put him in an 1326 impossible position where any detailed 1329 response would either reveal private 1331 family matters or expose the weakness of 1333 his arguments. The prince's frustration 1333 became increasingly visible as he 1339 struggled to find a way forward that 1340 wouldn't compromise his position 1342 further. His hands gestured more 1344 animatedly as he spoke, and his voice 1347 carried an edge of desperation that 1349 hadn't been there at the beginning of 1350 the interview. The prince attempted to 1353 regain control by pivoting to broader 1355 themes about media responsibility and 1357 public discourse. He spoke about the 1359 difference between legitimate journalism 1402 and entertainment masquerading as news, 1405 about the ethical obligations that came 1407 and with platforms as influential as 1409 Colbert's show. But his comments carried 1412 an implicit criticism of the very 1414 program he was appearing on, suggesting 1407 and seen that the late show was part of the 1418 problem he was describing. Colbert's 1421 expression hardened noticeably. The host 1404 had built his career on intelligent 1426 substantive interviews that balanced 14028 entertainment with genuine insight. And 1430 Harry's comments seemed to dismiss both 1433 his professional integrity and the 1435 quality of his work. The veteran 1438 broadcaster's response was measured, but 1440 unmistakably firm. He pointed out that 1443 Harry had sought out this appearance, that no one had forced him to book the 1447 interview or to make the claims he was 1449 now reluctant to defend. The host 1452 continued, explaining that his show at 1455 always maintained high journalistic 1457 standards while also acknowledging its 1459 entertainment value. He suggested that 1500 Harry seemed to want the benefits of 1503 media attention without accepting the 1506 accountability that came with making 1507 public statement. The observation was 1510 delivered with Colbert's 1512 characteristic precision, cutting 1542 straight to the heart of the 1515 contradiction that had been building 1517 throughout their exchange. Harry's 15th response revealed just how far the 1521 situation had deteriorated. He accused 1524 Colbert of misrepresenting his 1526 positions, of taking his comments out of 1529 context and twisting them to create 1531 artificial controversy. His voice rose 1534 as he spoke, and for the first time 1536 since the interview began he seemed to 1538 forget entirely about the cameras and 1540 the audience. This was no longer a 1543 public conversation, but a personal 1505 confrontation between two strong-willed 1548 individuals who had reached an impasse. 1551 Colbert remained calm, but his words 1553 carried unmistakable authority. He 1556 reminded Harry that everything they had 1558 discussed was being recorded, that 1600 viewers could for themselves 16 sear so too whether any misrepresentation had 1604 occurred. The host suggested that if 1607 Harry felt his positions were being 1698 distorted, perhaps the problem lay not 1611 with the questions being asked, but with inconsistencies in the positions 1616 themselves. The comment struck Harry 1618 like a physical blow. His face wrined as 1621 he leaned forward in his chair, pointing 1623 directly at Colbert as he spoke. He 1626 accused the host of ambushing him, of 16 the interview format to make him 1631 look foolish rather than engaging in 1632 genuine dialogue. Harry's voice carried 1635 a tremor of genuine anger, as he 1637 suggested that this kind of 1639 confrontational approach was exactly 1641 what was wrong with American media 1643 culture. Colbert's response was a 1646 moment that would define the entire 1648 encounter. The host calmly explained 1651 that every question he had asked was 1653 directly related to statements Harry had 1655 made publicly, that nothing they were 1657 discussing was off limits or unexpected 1700 given the prince's own previous 1702 comments. He pointed out that if Harry 1704 wasn't prepared to discuss his public 1706 positions, he probably shouldn't have 1708 made them in the first place. The 17 observation seemed to break something 17T12 fundamental in Harry's composure. He 1715 stood up abruptly from his chair, so sudden that it startled the 17-19 studio audience into complete silence. 1722 for a moment he towered over Colbert's 1724 desk, his body language suggesting 1727 barely contained fury when he spoke. 1730 a level of personal 1730-31 animosity that has formed the entire 1734 atmosphere in the studio. Harry accused 1737 Colbert of being a bully, hiding under 39 the pretense of journalism of using his 1742 platform to humiliate guests rather than 1744 inform audiences. He suggested that the 17th reputation for intelligent 1750 discourse was a carefully constructed 1752 facade that concealed a more petty and 1754 vindictive personality. The attack was 1757 personal and direct, crossing every line 1800 that typically governed the behavior of 18,002 talk show guests. Colbert's face showed 1852 in shock for the first time during 1807, the entire encounter. The seasoned 1809 broadcaster had dealt with difficult 1812 guests before, but rarely had anyone 1814 launched such a direct personal attack 1816 during a live taping. For a moment he 1819 seemed genuinely at a loss for words. 18's usual quick wit apparently stunned 1824 into silence by the unexpected 1826 escalation. 1828 but Colbert recovered quickly, drawing on decades of experience handling live 1833 television crisis. His response was 1835 controlled but firm, explaining that 1838 Harry was welcome to disagree with his 1840 questions, but that personal attacks 1842 were neither necessary nor appropriate. The host suggested that if Harry was 1847 unable to continue the conversation 1850 civilly, perhaps it would be best to end 1852 the interview early. Harry's reaction 1854 was immediate and explosive. He accused 1857 Colbert of trying to silence him, of 1900 attempting to control the narrative by 1972 threatening to end the interview when 1904 challenged. His voice carried a note of 1906 hysteria as he said that this was 1909 exactly the kind of institutional 1911 bullying he had been trying to escape 1913 by leaving royal life. The irony of his 1916 complaint seemed lost on him entirely. The situation had now moved completely 1921 beyond the realm of salvageable 1923 television. 1925 Harry continued speaking his words, 1927 tumbling over each other as he aired 1909 grievances that seemed to extend far 1931 beyond his immediate conflict with 1933 Colbert. He spoke about being 1936 misunderstood, about having his motives 1938 constantly questioned, about the 1940 impossibility of living up to 1942 expectations that shifted without 1944 warning or explanation. 1946 deferral attempt to 1948 restore order, asking Harry to 1951 his seat so they could continue their 1953 conversation more constructively. But 1955 the prince would be on such diplomatic 1958 solutions. He accused the host trying 2001 to manipulate him, of using false 2003 courtesy to mask continued aggression. 2006 his paranoia was now evident to everyone. 2008 in the studio, and the audience watched 2010 in uncomfortable silence as the 2012 situation spiraled completely out of 24 control. 2006 that's when Harry made the comment that 2018 would end his appearance definitively. He suggested that Colbert's entire 2022 career was built on tearing down people 2024 who were more accomplished than himself. 2007 that the host's success came from making 2029 guests look foolish rather than from any 2032 genuine talent or insight. The attack 2035 was so personal and so obviously un-2039 that even viewers who sympathized with 2041 Harry's earlier positions found 2043 themselves unable to defend his 2045 year. Colbert's response was swift, 24/7 and final. He thanked Harry for his 2050 time, announced that they would be 2052 taking a commercial break, and gestured 2054 toward the wings where the prince's 2055 security team was already moving into 2057 position. The message was clear without 2000 being explicitly stated. Harry's 2002 appearance was over and he needed to 2105 leave immediately. But Harry wasn't 2107 finished. Approached, he continued speaking, his 2112 voice now carrying a note of genuine 2040 desperation. He accused Colbert of 2117 cowardice, of hiding 9 commercial 2019 breaks and security personnel rather 2122 than facing the legitimate criticisms 2124 that had been raised. His words echoed 2127 even as his team 2029 began gently but firmly escorting him 2131 toward the exit. The last image viewers saw before the commercial break was 2136 Harry being guided off the stage, still 2139 speaking animatedly to anyone who would 2141 listen, while Colbert sat at his desk 23 with an expression of genuine 2145 bewilderment. The contrast between the 2047 host's professional composure and the 2050 prince's obvious agitation created a 2152 visual that would be replayed and 2154 analyzed for days to come. As the studio 2015 and the audience sat in 2059 stunned silence, it was clear that 2202 everyone present had witnessed something 2204 unprecedented in the normally controlled 2006 world of late-night television. Carefully managed public image that 2010 Harry had spent years constructing had 2013 crumbled in the space of a single 2024 disastrous interview, leaving behind 2017 questions about judgment 2220 and the real person behind the carefully 22 crafted public persona. What do you 2025 think really pushed Prince Harry over 2027 the edge in this 28 confrontation? Was it Colbert's 2230 relentless questioning for thing 2233 deeper that had been building for years? 2235 drop your thoughts in the comments 22Z37 below. And don't forget to subscribe for 2240 more incredible stories like this one.